I would, but
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of East Providence City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. Deputy Clerk, may we start off with a roll call, please?
Councilman Cahoon.
I'm here.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Here.
Council President Brito.
Yeah,
Councilman Morato.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Souza.
Made it.
thank you. The chair will recognize a motion for the City Council to meet in closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, 5A5, and 5A4 is listed on the agenda related to the following four items, which is new claims and sewer abatement, Keep Metacomet Green versus City of East Providence, streetlight litigation and possible settlement, investigation proceeding related to the claim of the city clerk is made during the public comment on the 17th of August City Council meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion at this point in time to go into executive session?
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion has been made. Would
Second.
anyone like to second that motion? May we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Thank you. A motion to go into executive session was passed by a vote of 5-0. We will proceed immediately following executive session. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of East Providence City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. May we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I apologize for the delay in an executive session. With that being said, Deputy Clerk, may we start off with a roll call, please?
Here.
Here.
Yeah,
Councilman Morado?
Here.
Councilwoman Souza?
Here.
thank you. Next item, please.
Motion to seal executive session minutes.
So moved, Mr. President.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Roll call, vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Next item, please.
Consent calendar. Council journals, regular meeting minutes from August 17th, 2021.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
And the tax abatements, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Amend my motion to also approve the tax abatement.
Can we got amended on a motion,
Second.
and we have a second, and a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Yeah.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Next item, please.
Licenses. Non-public hearing, one-day entertainment license. Applicant is Brian Deitch.
Deitch. Yep, Deitch. Does he have all the information provided to the clerk's office?
Yes.
At the pleasure of the council, anyone have any questions? Is the applicant present at this time? Applicant's not present at this time? Okay. We have all the information. Anyone like to make a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. President.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Roll call.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Next item, please.
Pool table transfer. The transfer is from TNT's 133 Club, Inc., and we're transferring to the 133 Club, Inc.
You have all the paperwork?
We do.
Okay, at the pleasure of the council, anyone have any questions? No questions? Is the applicant present at this time? You don't need to approach, I don't think, unless you want to. Okay, we'll get you out of here as quick as possible. You waited long enough.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Thank you. Next application, please.
Application for holiday sales. The applicant is John Cardozi Jr. The business is 133 Club, Inc.
Are you in receipt of all the paperwork?
We have.
Any question, concern, issues? No problems?
No.
At the pleasure of the council?
Once again, all the parties are here and everything is in order, and I'd move approval.
Anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Another one for the applicant, please. Next one.
Application for dance and entertainment license to transfer. The transfer is from TNT's 133 Club, Inc., and we're transferring to the 133 Club, Inc.
All the paperwork in? No issues, problems, concerns?
Not at all.
At the pleasure of the council?
Move to
No
approve.
questions?
Second.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Final application.
The application for a victualling license is Class 1, it's a transfer. Transfer is from Anthony Andriozzi and Teresa Andriozzi, the TNT's 133 Club, Inc. And we're transferring to John Cardozi Jr., the 133 Club, Inc.
All the paperwork in?
It is.
Any issues,
No.
concerns, problems?
Move
None.
approval.
We have approval.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morado?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Okay. Next item, please.
This is license for public hearing. It's the BV license transfer. The transfer is from TNT 133 Club, Inc. Transfer to the 133 Club, Inc.
This is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to speak for or against this transfer, please approach the podium. I'll ask one more time. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this license, please approach the podium. With no one approaching the podium, public comment is now closed. At the pleasure of the council, any concerns, questions?
Under public comments, before making a motion, we've strived to support local businesses in East Providence, and I just want to wish the Andriozzi's good luck in their retirement and thank them for, is it over 20 years of having a successful business in the city with zero problems, and at least one half of you looks too young to retire.
Oh,
And I wish good luck to the new owners who have also owned the business in East Providence before. Jay Cardozi, Sharon, best of luck to you. And with that intro, I'd make a motion to approve this.
anyone?
Second.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Good luck. Thank you. Proclamations and presentations?
Don't have any.
You're welcome to leave. We won't take it personal.
Communications?
Not the rest of you.
I did not receive any communication.
Okay, there's no communications as well. Public comment, we have two public comment. Ted Furtado? Yep, Ted Furtado. Mr. Furtado? We have you here for public comment on Mountain Avenue traffic.
We have green. We're good. Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Ted Furtado, and as a quick reminder, I've been an East Providence resident for 50 years, residing the past 32 years with my wife Holly at 52 Mountain Avenue. First, on behalf of the entire Mountain Avenue neighborhood, I would like to thank Councilman Cahoon, the entire City Council, the East Providence Police Department, the East Providence Department of Public Works, and the Mayor's Office for their continued diligence addressing the excess traffic and speeding issues on Mountain Avenue. Unfortunately, the need for our combined diligence on this issue continues. Following the August traffic study by the East Providence Police Department, Councilman Cahoon, Coach Alex Butler, and I had a Zoom call 2 weeks ago to discuss the current situation and to brainstorm possible avenues of remedial action. In a quick summary for all here tonight, the traffic study showed that the volume of traffic on the street was essentially the same as April. Alex and I both noted at that time that there was no school-related traffic in August, and as a traditional holiday vacation month for many, we will only see an increase in traffic on our street this month. The traffic volume might be a little less because of the new signage that the council authorized, and some drivers indeed may look a little guilty trying not to look at the neighbors as they cut through the street, but not by any real measurable amount, according to the traffic study. In daily consistent observations by many neighbors, we can report to the council a blatant disregard of the do not enter local traffic only signs at both ends of the street by many, many drivers, including a good number of regulars. None of us in the neighborhood feel that a driver's navigation app, such as Google's Waze, supersedes posted restrictions by the city. We are amazed and saddened by the attitude of these drivers consciously and continually choosing to disregard signs for a posted restricted street. As a result of that meeting, I distributed the ideas we had discussed to the 18 different Mountain Avenue households who have been involved with this process since the beginning last spring. Tonight, I am in front of the council with a big ask, as the neighborhood came to the consensus that we truly need a multifaceted approach to address this issue most effectively. That big ask is for the council to please consider 3 measures that we feel need to be enacted concurrently by the city in order to have a measurable decrease in traffic and a resulting increase in safety on Mountain Avenue. With your permission, I'll present those 3 measures the neighborhood came up with. First of all, and the top of our list, we would request a limited but concentrated enforcement period on the street. Mountain Avenue is now a posted restricted street in the East Providence City Code of Ordinances with first, second, and third violation fines of $85, $110, and $150 respectively for violations and that signage has been posted now for months. Enforcement and resulting consequences should not be a surprise for any driver. As such, we are respectively asking for the East Providence Police Department to find at least a week in September to initiate a 1-week, 5-day, weekday blitz of enforcement to make a statement that the traffic laws of East Providence are indeed enforced. We're asking for a commitment during that period of a set number of 2-hour enforcement blocks. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4-hour total per day. Tuesday and Thursday, 2-hour total. 3 specific high traffic volume windows on the street: 8 to 10 a.m., 11:30 to 1:30 p.m., and 4 to 6 p.m.
Excuse me one moment, Mr. Furtado. Councilman Cahoon, I know you have this as a council member on the docket here as well. Do you want to combine the two? Because other than that, it looks like we're going to really exceed the
Yeah,
amount of time that we have for public
I
comment.
think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay.
So would you prefer to do it at this point in time?
Yeah, I think.
While the gentleman's up?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Please proceed.
Okay, no worries. Regarding those enforcement periods, we would request that an officer be positioned at the center of the street, stopping all cars going in either direction. We ask that if the driver is not a resident nor has business with someone on the street, the driver would indeed be cutting through the street in violation of a posted city ordinance, and a ticket spelled out in traffic fines section 18-11-2 would be issued in all cases. We strongly believe that only a substantial monetary deterrent at this point will be effective, with numerous drivers cutting through on a regular basis. Number 2, we request the installation of speed bumps or humps that are DPW and East Providence Fire Department approved. We believe the installation of these traffic calming devices will effectively slow the traffic to make the street safer for residents and hopefully make the street less desirable for cutting through. Number 3, we request that the Department of Public Works Director, Dan Borges, work with Rhode Island DOT to try to have a delayed left signal installed for access to Pawtucket Avenue North, added to the signal system already in place in front of Bradley Hospital. Our thinking is that if people don't have to wait for 1 or 2 changes of the light at Bradley Hospital to take a left to Pawtucket Avenue North, we'll have less people wanting to really cut through. And we believe that if the traffic abatement measures number 1 and 2 that I've mentioned earlier are enacted, then the director will have plenty of documentation for Rhode Island DOT of why there's going to be more traffic at the light at Pawtucket Avenue. In summary, it's the belief of the residents of Mountain Avenue that if these 3 measures were enacted by the city of East Providence, we would witness a measurable decrease in traffic and a resulting increase in safety on the street. On behalf of all my neighbors, I thank you for your consideration of our big ask this evening.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilman?
So to follow up on that, and I think Mr. Furtado did an excellent job of explaining that, the measures that we took there, those measures specifically being the posting of the, do not enter local traffic only signs on either end of Mountain Avenue, have had no appreciable or really no impact at all on traffic. In fact, it may even be that the traffic situation has worsened from the initial study in April to the follow-up in late July and early August. The volume of traffic that's going up and down that road indicates that it is something special about that road. It's clearly being used as a cut-through. I have talked to several residents who have indicated that they use it to avoid the light. There is evidence that Google or Waze, as Mr. Furtado pointed out, will guide people up Mountain Avenue because they've set their default settings to avoid traffic lights, if you will. So the light that he referenced in front of Bradley Hospital is clearly a culprit. And the other thing that's Mr. Furtado did not discuss, we talked about in April, and it's clear that it's still going on, is the rate of speed that vehicles are traveling up and down Mountain Avenue is clearly not good, not consistent with neighborhood speed limits of 25 miles an hour. I mean, I think the highest rate we saw clocked over there was in excess of 50 miles an hour on Mountain Avenue, 50, like highway speed. And there's kids all over that street. So something else has to be done. The signs were not sufficient. I've had people reach out to me on a couple of the other streets that are over there looking for a similar situation or a similar solution. And my response is, well, it hasn't really provided a solution, so I'm hesitant to bring that to the council for consideration. What I do think is appropriate for the council, and I would ask for your support, is I would very much like Dan Borges' take on the recommendations that Mr. Furtado has gathered from the Mountain Avenue families. I think I would like to see Dan's analysis on which of those options might be best for that particular street. I do know that there is sort of a knee-jerk reaction to the idea of speed bumps. Nobody likes going over them. Nobody really likes them being there. They're a nuisance for plowing, et cetera. But we may reach the point where that's the only reasonable option for a street like Mountain and what's going on there. So I guess I would turn it over to the council for discussion or consideration, but what I would like to ask is that we, as a council, ask DPW through the mayor, hey, can we get your take on which of these options works best and work together as a council to come up with a legislative solution?
Mr. President, I've talked with some of the neighbors also, and I think, Councilman, that's the best path forward at this point. Let's get a professional recommendation from DPW. I would add this, that recently, within a week or so ago, going to an appointment on the east side of Providence, as you go over the Henderson Bridge and you come on to, is it South Angel, goes up in, Waterman comes back, but right at the beginning there of South Angel, there are speed bumps now. I'm not sure, I didn't stop and look at them, they were substantial. I had to really slow down and go over them. But it did its purpose, and that's a congested area, and the cars seem to be used to it. So it may be time to start thinking about some of these new type speed bumps. I don't know if they take them up in the winter for plowing, but they seem to be popping up around the state. If people aren't gonna go by signs, the other thing is, we just fine everybody and really try to enforce it. Maybe, as we've said here countless times, look at Forbes Street. Almost everyone in East Providence knows you don't speed on Forbes Street because there's always radar or a guy there hiding. So it's like it's ingrained in us now. It's a habit. You don't speed on Forbes Street in Riverside, even though radar isn't always there. So those are the two focuses I think we need. Enforce what we've already got on the books, and then maybe look at some existential things like speed bumps. That's my take. Do we need to officially ask for DPW? Is that necessary, Mr. President, or can we just?
No, they're here.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor, you want to address?
First, I want to thank Mr. Furtado for the work that he's done in bringing this presentation to the council. I was on an email chain with Councilman Cahoon. He's communicated to me the concerns of the community. Captain Raymer instructed the traffic division to post, starting today actually, to post 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon for 10 days straight, Monday through Friday, to see what kind of numbers we get and what kind of change we can enforce by maybe, doing some heavy traffic enforcement there, hoping that the people who use it, the regular people who use it, will become accustomed to the fact that police are there and learn that this is a do not enter and no through street. So that is going on right now. As far as speed bumps, I'm not a big supporter of speed bumps, but it's something we can look at and explore. My biggest concern, of course, with speed bumps is that I can tell you, and I'm sure the council members all know, because one of the most frequent complaints that we get from our constituents is about people speeding and people driving fast. If we open up that Pandora's box, you're going to be putting speed bumps on every residential street to appease a constituent or two who may call you about their perception of speeding. And I can tell you that speed bumps can cause more problems, unforeseen problems, such as the noise from cars that are driving over it on a regular basis, so it creates noise pollution. Additionally, when it comes to removing snow from the roads, that creates an issue. But it's something we can look at. I know that Councilman Brittle in the last budget did put some money in for traffic calming measures. We've gone out and purchased some signs that light up and let people know how fast they're going. We're hoping that has a positive impact. We can pull the data from those signs and see what kind of impact it had. Maybe there's something we can do with that. Captain Raymond did suggest that perhaps what might work is if we turn Mountain Avenue into a one-way from Pawtucket Avenue to Vets Memorial Parkway, make that a one-way. It would make things, it may be a little inconvenient for the residents if they're coming off of Veterans Parkway and they're trying to get to their home, but it may make things clearer, because then we could do some striping on the road, we can line things up, we can put arrows up and down the road and make it much more visible so that people understand, so do not enter. I can't say anything more than that, but we're willing to listen to all options and work on those.
No further questions? Okay.
So, Mr. Furtado, just so you know, I will continue to work with the mayor, with Mr. Borges, and we will continue to report on, you know, what are the preferable next steps, and we can continue the discussion. And I would very much like to see the results of what happens from the heightened enforcement as well. And I think we all acknowledge that that heightened enforcement is a heightened enforcement for a specific period of time. It cannot continue, right?
Correct. Correct.
So,
And that's why I put limited, concentrated. I don't expect it. I know we don't have staffing capabilities to do that, so I'm not asking for the world. But like you mentioned regarding Forbes Street, once it gets in somebody, you know, intermittent negative reinforcement in effect, right? You know, if you're a golfer, you know, you make that one good shot, you keep coming back for more until you finally get it again. You get that one ticket, you're going to be looking every time you think about making the turn on Mountain Avenue. Just last point that the mayor mentioned about the one-way option, that was one of the 4 items that Councilman Cahoon, Alex Butler, and I discussed 2 weeks ago. I took it to the neighborhood. It was unanimous, hands down, no, we don't want it considered. The only people following the rules they feel would be us, as opposed to, the drivers are already ignoring signs. So we don't even want to think of, have the council, it'd be our request for the council not even to request, even consider the one-way option.
Can I just offer one suggestion?
Sure.
Just like Councilman Rodrick's mentioned, that Forbes Street is well known for having traffic enforcement, and he's not there all the time, but it's got that stigma. I think and I wanted to put into this budget $9,000 from the traffic calming, those temporary speed bumps. By placing a bunch of speed bumps on that street, those removable speed bumps, for a certain amount of time, people are going to remember that. And will most likely avoid those speed bumps and wait at the light, which will take less time than slowing down, 3 or 4 up Mountain Avenue. So if that was done for a short period of time, then that may curve some of that, the people that, are just cutting through. They'll remember that. And then for whatever time, remove them. I'm actually going to look at the same thing for that road on the Riverside that's a cut through at that stop sign. Right? That would be a great solution. Winter time, just remove them for plowing. But people will remember those speed bumps. So they don't necessarily have to be there, 12 months out of the year, but having them there for 3 or 4 months, maybe will curve some of that and reduce. And then as people forget and start to reuse and re-implement them.
Yeah.
So
another enforcement period, another placement of the temporary speed bumps. Yeah, we weren't looking for, full-time, those tabletops that you're seeing in East Providence, those are asphalt. 3 to 4 inches high, 3 of them across the road, wobble. Supposedly, they're acceptable for the fire department. They can go over them in speed. That's one thing, but we don't need that. We
One-
just
one
need to
last
get
question,
people's attention.
One last question, Mr. Furtado. Have you, Coach Butler, or others, would you say you, in your observations, it seems to be the same people a lot, commuters? I know you don't have a science, down to a science, but is it like a commuter traffic that's doing this?
It is all day. I mean, it is all day. We're just amazed. I mean, yeah, maybe some people are 2 or 3 blocks away, they consider themselves local. I understand that. But Connecticut plates, Massachusetts plates, there's a sign there. You know, it just, you know, right now, no, we won't go into the politics of it, but it's just very discouraging that the laws don't apply to them for some reason. I don't understand. So, but like I said, a lot more people are looking guilty driving up the street, kind of like, you know, they don't want to look at us anymore in the street. They just kind of like eyes forward, driving up the street, and so they know. But I think it just needs to be negatively reinforced with a ticket or two. And again, if an officer is and again, that first enforcement, they're at the ends of the street. They were seen. In the middle, you get them coming, I mean, that's a straight shot. You see traffic coming both ways. You pull everybody over. And they get 1 ticket and they're told by the officer, the second one's 110 and the third one's 150. I mean, that's the law, guys.
That would stop me.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next and final public comment is Sarah Carpenter, hawker's license. Ms. Carpenter, are you here? Okay, that concludes public comment.
Okay, all right.
Can we just add for the record those emails that were sent to be added to
Okay.
the public comment?
So we had,
Your mic on?
we had 6 chicken ordinance emails come in, and 2 were against and 4 were in favor.
Without going into the detail and reading them all. Thank you.
I'd just make a motion that be placed in part of the record in the minutes.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote on that.
Councilman Cahoon,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick,
Aye.
Council President Brito,
Aye.
Councilman Morato,
Aye.
Councilman Souza.
Aye.
So before we proceed in a timely manner with council members, we have people here from the public. I don't know if they're on the docket for one reason or the other, that we need to move them up. Anyone? Just the mayor? Mayor, what is it that would you like to come up, Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I bring to you today my budget letter
Okay.
for the public and for the council.
Is that why, Mayor, your staff is here as well?
That's correct.
Okay, very good.
Correct. We've been working on this for several weeks now, crafting what we feel is a very responsible budget. In accordance with Section 5.3 of the East Providence Home Rule Charter, I'm pleased to submit the administration's proposed fiscal year 2022 budget. This budget was prepared in the midst of a pandemic while keeping in mind that East Providence needs to address some of the challenges of and the responses to the pandemic. The city of East Providence will be receiving approximately $28 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds, while the school department will be receiving $12 million in federal funds to help in addressing the needs of the community and the recovery. Last year, while crafting the 2021 fiscal budget, we had to address the economic and social disruption caused by COVID-19 while keeping expenditures and staffing to a minimum. In fact, a total of 12 positions either went unfunded or unfilled. In crafting this year's budget, the administration sought to minimize a tax increase to our residents. The administration is happy to present a budget with a minimal proposed city increase of $848,510, 0.779 of 1%. The school department also proposed a minimal increase to its budget of $639,639, which is a 0.58% increase. The overall increases, however, will be further reduced to 0 on the city side should we receive an additional federal grant which we're waiting on for our fire department, in which case this budget will have a total tax increase of 0.587% over last year's budget. This budget fully funds our police department, adds an additional rescue to Station 3 in Rumford, and increases fire personnel. This budget also keeps our residents and businesses safe, our city services at a high level, our infrastructure in repair, and our parks and recreational facilities maintained, beautiful, and enjoyable. The proposed fiscal 2022 budget recommends general expenditures of $177,570,000 and an $8 million increase, which is 4.8% over last year's spending. Of the total general fund increase, city operating expenditures increased by $6.5 million. City funds of the school department, rose by $1.6 million. East Providence's proposed fiscal 2022 general fund operating budget reflects tight fiscal management with a commitment to continue supporting our residents during these unprecedented times. Most of the city's $8.2 million operating expenditures increases are for the high school bond, increase in school funding, positions filled with ARPA funds, additional police and fire pension contributions, and contractual raises. The following 6 items represent the majority of the overall increase. 1, the line item for the high school bond has been increased by approximately $2.85 million. The school will be substantially complete, and it's actually substantially complete now, by September 1st, 2021. Thanks to the efforts of the East Providence School Building Committee, the city will be reimbursed 74% through the construction aid program sponsored by the Rhode Island Department of Education. The aid is distributed based on the state's fiscal year, which is our fiscal year 2022. The school department budget increased by $1.6 million. Of that, the school department is requesting from the city $639,000. In preparing last year's fiscal budget, the administration did not fill a number of full-time positions because of the uncertainty of the economic impact of the pandemic. The American Rescue Plan Act allows municipalities to use federal funds to fund portions or positions that were previously unfilled due to the pandemic. The administration has identified in this budget 12 full-time employees, positions, and some part-time positions totaling $985,000, which will be paid through ARPA funds through fiscal year 2026. This funding will enable us to fully fund the East Providence Police Department at 103 sworn personnel and 12 public safety communications personnel. In addition, this funding will also enable us to fund 4 labor positions in the East Providence Department of Public Works, 2 positions in the East Providence Library, and 1 position in the East Providence Planning and Economic Development Department. We are budgeting $848,000 as a placeholder in anticipation of being awarded a federal SAFER grant, which stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. The city has submitted a SAFER grant application in the amount of $7.3 million over 3 years. This grant will enable the East Providence Fire Department to hire an additional 24 firefighters. As a result, this will enable the city to staff a 4th full-time rescue at Station 3 in Rumford. We anticipate being notified in September of 2021 as to whether we are awarded this grant. Should we be awarded the grant, the $848,000 will be funded through said grant, reducing the tax increase by 0.779%, bringing the total increase in this budget to a mere 0.587%. Our police and fire annual required contributions to the pension increased a combined $1.37 million, mainly due to this administration's decision to follow the actuary's recommendation. The city of East Providence will also be an adopter of a more conservative mortality table than what was previously used, to ensure that future generations of East Providence residents are not unfairly burdened. City regular base salaries and other compensations are budgeted to increase by approximately $1.3 million. The increases associated with projected salary increases for all personnel. Our proposed fiscal year 2022 budget calls for a $2.8 million investment in capital. The city has fully funded its reserve requirements required by the city charter under Section 515, and we are allocating the required 1% of anticipated operating fund revenue along with past excess operating surpluses to fund this proposed budget's capital. Additionally, the city has identified capital projects that may be funded through alternative funding sources, such as ARPA, federal grants, and asset forfeiture. The city has historically underfunded or had historically underfunded capital that created and contributed to bad roads, broken equipment, deteriorating infrastructure, and unusable parks and recreational facilities. We are determined to not repeat the shortcomings of the past. Our city needs to constantly upgrade its capital assets to provide the best services and quality of life for its residents and visitors. All of our capital requests are detailed in a separate budget section that you should have received with the budget presentation. To fund the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget, we are requesting a tax rate that is approximately 1.366% higher than the current rate. That increase would be as low as 0.587% should we receive the Safer Federal grant for our fire department. For the average East Providence single-family homeowner with a property valuation of $232,000, our proposed property tax increase would add approximately $59 to a homeowner's property tax. As this administration submits its proposed fiscal year 2022 budget, I would like to review some of the positive financial achievements that occurred during fiscal year 2021. We have built a new high school on time and under budget. The city saw dramatic savings from the original projection. The final cost of the city was reduced by almost $50 million. This was done through additional energy efficiencies and lower interest rates. More savings were derived by financing $24 million to the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank and issuing less bonds than projected. This all resulted in $2.5 million in annual savings to the city in debt service. The city will receive approximately $28 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to be used to restaff municipal employees, support public health expenditures, address negative economic impacts, replace lost public sector revenue, as well as invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure and capital. The school department is also slated to receive $12 million in federal funds. We have fulfilled our commitment to fully meet all ARC pension contributions for our MERS and our police fire pension plans. Additionally, the city of East Providence has a trust fund balance of approximately $28.6 million for other post-employment benefits which are given to employees upon retirement, which is way beyond what the state requires and well ahead of most other Rhode Island municipalities. Our commitment to OPEB and pension funding will help to ensure East Providence's fiscal health for future generations. In continuing our response to COVID-19, the city has received an additional $650,000 from FEMA for COVID-19 related costs. Our fire department recently received $834,000 in FEMA assistance to firefighter grants, which will be used to certify and provide licensing for 25 members of the East Providence Fire Department to provide the highest level of care to our residents. In essence, they'll be certified as paramedics. We have accomplished great things in fiscal year 2021 across all of our departments, and our proposed fiscal year 2022 budget reflects our commitment to continue this progress. Here are just some of the projects that city departments have helped to move forward. A comprehensive plan RFP was issued in early 2020, and the plan effort is well underway. The process is expected to be complete by winter. Community workshops will be scheduled for September and October of 2021. The areas to be reviewed include housing, transportation, recreation, land use policy, among other community issues. After many years of inactivity, the city is now part of a tourism bureau. This will enable the city to have access to more than $500,000 in funding to develop a robust campaign to promote the local attractions and businesses here in East Providence. The city of East Providence has established the first ever arts district in the city. This will exempt artists that live within this area from state income tax, which should encourage residential development in the district. A public art campaign has been funded, which will include sculptures and murals located in Wachamoka Square. New digital wayfinding signage will be installed in the fall of 2021, which will further promote businesses and tourist attractions in these areas. We'll be the first municipality in the state of Rhode Island to do that. The city has adopted innovative mixed-use overlay districts to jumpstart redevelopment in other commercial corridors. This legislation allows for flexible zoning of vacant buildings, encourages innovative reuse of vacant properties. These overlay districts include Warren Avenue, Taunton Avenue, Waterman, and Bullocks Point Avenue. This past year, the city has ushered in an urban forestry program. Several of the city's noble trees were formally recognized as tree champions for its species. A tree planting program began in the spring of 2021 and will continue into the fall. For the first time in its history, the city hosted a Rhode Island Arbor Day ceremony at Hull Street Park. As part of this event, the Rhode Island Tree Council planted more than $10,000 worth of trees at the park. In May 2021, the city planted an additional 14 trees on the grounds of White Neck School, which was funded by a $20,000 grant from TD Bank and the Arbor Day Foundation, thanks to, in large part to our partnership with EP Urban Forest Group. As a result of these activities, East Providence regained its designation as a Tree City USA. Riverside Downtown Revitalization Planning Project is kicking off in September. Students from Roger Williams University will be working in partnership with the City of East Providence, Grow Smart RI, Riverside residents, and community groups to support multiple planning efforts. The students will conduct a planning study and cultural resources survey in Riverside to assess the existing economic, social, and physical conditions of the community. Several stalled development projects, which sat untouched for decades, are now fully permitted, and construction is expected to begin in 2021. These include Wampanoag Meadows, a 400-unit residential development, and a mixed-use development on Newport Avenue, which includes 142 apartment units along with retail uses. The residences at Bull Point has completed its phase 1 development of an abandoned auto repair shop. This initial phase included 22 apartments, while phase 2 will include an additional 12 units. Additional residential development nearing completion includes Circle Drive, the Kettle Point townhouses, and apartments. A new residential construction project is expected on the vacant lot on Waterman Avenue by the end of 2021. New residential construction will provide much-needed affordable housing, including 13 units at Ivy Place. These are all affordable houses. 16 units at the former Vamco site in Riverside, and that I was just told by our planning director, the developers of that Vamco site will be coming in shortly to talk about the plans that they have. I understand that they have received the required subsidy funding for their project. Very excited to see that project move after years of sitting there as a vacant derelict lot. There's currently a renovation going on at 36 units, 36 existing units on Sutton Avenue that will become affordable housing units. As part of these projects, the city has formed strong partnerships with experienced community development organizations that have a proven track record of providing quality housing. After more than 10 years of being dormant, the Platte Waters parcels are being transformed into 11 lots for new homes in our community. 3 of these parcels will be designated as affordable housing sites for 6 families. These new housing units will improve the city's aging housing stock. More than 84% of the city's existing housing was built prior to 1980, and nearly 40% prior to 1940. The city is working closely with a regional developer, the governor's office, and our congressional delegation to make East Providence play an important role in the emerging offshore wind industry. This plan will finally put to use the 40-year-old South Key to become a productive use. The city is working closely with a regional developer. A brownfield site located on Dexter Road is now home to 6,000 panel solar array that produces clean energy for the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority. This use will allow the property to undergo environmental remediation that will allow the site to be developed. Additionally, it's a source of revenue to the city as we receive property taxes from that property now. Many formerly vacant industrial properties are now occupied by commercial and manufacturing companies. These sites include Future Foam and Independent Pipe on Almeida Ways, as well as NextCans located on Narragansett Park Drive. Pace RI now occupies more than 60,000 square feet at 10 Trips Lane, while bringing more than 100 jobs to East Providence. They plan on having a ribbon cutting later this month. I'm hoping that all of you can join us there. Phyllisdale Landing has undergone a complete transformation. The property was nearly vacant when new owners acquired it 7 years ago, but that property is now nearly 100% occupied. Notable businesses at the mill site include Amaral Custom Fabrications, Enotap, Arkwood Reclaimed Products, and We Share Hope that recently moved there. The site of the former Ocean Steel facility is being proposed for a large residential development, which also includes a walking trail with public access to the Seekonk River and a mega pond. A kayak launch is also planned for this site. The East Point project will consist of 380 residential units, including 10% affordable housing units within the development. The city has made significant investment in many neighborhood parks, including Pierce, Grassy Plains Park, and Central Avenue. And we have the wonderful addition of a new splash pad at Pierce Field, which came in really handy during the heat waves that we dealt with this summer. Additional improvements are planned for Riverside Recreational Field, Kettle Point Park, and Sabin Point. A new 600-foot public pier was donated to the city as part of the Kettle Point development. An informational video was produced to showcase many of the city's hiking trails and open space parcels. Improvements to the bike path at Riverside Square will be complete hopefully by 2021. We've been waiting on that for quite some time, and the delay really has been waiting on permits from DOT and DEM. The city continues to support local businesses during this pandemic. It was the first community in the state to offer emergency loans to city businesses. Additionally, the city secured Take It Outside grants from Commerce RI, which benefited many local businesses. The city has entered into an agreement with Rise Engineering to replace city streetlights with high-efficiency LEDs. As the pandemic receded, the city provided financial support from its commercial loan program to 2 new food and beverage venues. Crook Point Brewery and Honey Bird Kitchen were both approved to receive loans and are expected to open this fall. These businesses will be located in an area primed for the redevelopment, as the Henderson Bridge project will greatly enhance the accessibility to Massasoit Avenue and Waterfront Drive. This proposed budget continues to keep us on track to ensure that East Providence remains the place where people want to live, work, play, and learn. Many of these accomplishments would not be possible without the support of the council and the work that you put into making these things become a reality. We have accomplished a lot during these past years, but we can do even more to enhance the lives of our residents and the success of our city businesses. The pandemic has slowed us down, but it has not defeated us. East Providence's best is yet to come, and this proposed fiscal year 2022 budget is the beginning of that journey. The administration looks forward to the workshops and hearings on this proposal and will be happy to answer any questions you may have. I want to thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor.
I have a question. So what is the exact rate increase for this next fiscal year?
The exact rate increase will not be determined until the budget is passed, and then we look at the assessment of the property. But we're looking at the increase overall in the budget is 1.37% if you include the city's increase request and the school department's increase request. If the city should be funded by this federal grant, then we would ask that the council cut that increase from the city out, at which point we would only be looking at the increase, the $639,000 increase from the school department, which is a mere 0.37%, I believe.
So this year's increase to the taxpayers is a 1.37% increase.
The increase in the budget does not mean that that would be a definitive increase on the ratepayers until we know what the exact assessment is. We're going through an assessment evaluation program right now.
When will that assessment be done?
I think it's in,
12/31.
when is it?
12/31.
12/31, it has to be done by the end of the year. Yeah, so it's in process now.
So wouldn't that assessment affect the next FY budget? How can we pass a budget not knowing what exactly the tax rate will be?
The assessment just tells you what the value of your property, of your taxable property is in the community. And then based on what the value of that property, so let's say, the property is, all the property in these provinces is valued at $100. And I need to raise $10 of tax, then I would know I'd have to tax 10% to get that $10 of tax. Once we get a full assessment, you know what the base is, or what the city's total net worth is, and then you determine what the actual tax rate will be. What I'm showing you here in this presentation is that the budget is increasing by 1.37%. That's 1.37%. And the numbers that that are listed here that I read to you are based on current assessments. So an average family of $232,000, and let's say an average home valued at $230,000 under the current assessment, you're looking at a $59 increase in your tax bill overall with this budget. And that's before we remove the part from the fire department.
$59 increase annually.
Annually, yes. On an average $232,000 home, that's what you would be looking at annually under the current assessment of what we have right now.
I don't know, what I'm trying to get at is why wouldn't that assessment, that will be, the numbers will come in after the budget is supposed to be passed, which is our deadline is October 15th. Why wouldn't that be calculated in the next fiscal year? How can we calculate that?
I can call up.
So the way that I understand
numbers guru.
the way that I understand it is we must set a tax levy amount to make the revenue such that the balance budget, the budget balances, I'm speaking backwards, I'm sorry. So that overall tax levy amount then defines the tax rate on the individual residents based on the current values of their homes. Their homes will be reevaluated through this appraisal process, which will then result in adjusted tax rates for those residents. However, it will not change the overall tax levy, the overall amount of revenue that the city needs to fund the proposed budget if we accept the budget. Did I
You
say
got
that correctly?
100%,
Mr. Mayor?
yes. You explained that very well. Thank you.
So that's, ultimately, we will not know the individual rates that residents will pay until their house evaluations are complete. And when's the last time we went through this? 3 years ago?
Every 3 years,
Every
but
3
state
years,
law
yeah.
requires that you do a reassessment of your property every 3 years.
So people are going to see increases in their property values. I mean, it's only just, if you look at the market, if you look at the value of houses and houses that have sold, that's going to happen, and that generally happens over time anyway. But what the ultimate rate becomes does not determine what we set as the levy, right? The levy is what we need in order to fund the revenue to balance the budget.
Correct.
And as a footnote, we do have a budget workshop tomorrow evenings,
Yes.
beginning tomorrow evening at 6:30 here in the council chambers.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, one comment. I know we're going to get into all of this in more depth at the public workshops, but Mayor, you mentioned a lot of the housing projects, which is a positive thing, and all of us use the term affordable housing. People confuse that sometimes with Section 8 or others. Could you quickly explain that that is not the same affordable housing? There's a formula, right, based on income of the city residents and et cetera.
They look at the median age, the median income of a community, and then they go off a percentage of that. Most of the people who are going to qualify for these are going to be two working, adults with one child or two trying to establish or trying to purchase a home. And a lot of these projects are only made possible through subsidies that come from the state and through the federal government, so that it can be, the developer is in this to make money, right, ultimately. So they need to be able to offset the cost of constructing it so that they can rent it or sell it at a reasonable price.
Thank you.
No further questions? Thank you, sir. Thank you,
I
Council
would like to
President.
point out
Members.
just something that the mayor said, Mr. President, if I
Please.
may. The 74% reimbursement on the schools, while I don't want to say was a surprise because we had always planned for that, that's what we had designed for from the get-go. We were happy to find out that we had achieved it. The bond rate that we achieved for borrowing for that school was a surprise to me, and we'd learned that news, I think it was the exact same week. So when we sat down and I was there for the signing of the bonds and learned that that rate was 2.06% or whatever it was, we had targeted a rate that was almost double that. And to learn that, that is how, bond rating agencies look at our city and look at our finances, is such a departure from where we were 10 years ago that it's really hard to fathom.
And while I'm up here, I'd like to give credit to all of our department heads who are here with us today and some who could not be here. Putting together a budget is no easy process. It's weeks and weeks of meetings and sitting down and trying to come up with something that works for the residents of East Providence and works for us to be able to deliver a quality service. I also want to thank our finance team. They've done an incredible job. And Malcolm, all along, was able to, and he can speak in more detail on this, was able to finance the school in such a way that it saved us millions of dollars. And $2.5 million we don't have to come up with annually to put towards the school debt payment because of the work that Malcolm did. So very grateful to the team behind me. Wonderful group of people, and we look forward to coming up here and answering your questions and trying to get through this budget process.
Thank you, Mayor. With that being said, in the budget workshop being tomorrow evening at 6:30, will it be fair to say that we have a couple of departments come up, or maybe police and fire at least?
Tomorrow.
So, tomorrow. Yeah, just so they know in advance that they can be here tomorrow and possibly another department.
Council President, I believe, is it police, fire,
And then,
finance?
and finance, that's fine.
You want, and then animal control, correct?
Animal control,
You want that?
okay.
What was that last one, Councilwoman?
I
Animal
said he's part of the police.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Yes,
say, I
that makes
hope we
sense.
weren't trying to stick DPW in there too, because
No.
that'd be a long
No.
night, okay.
that has its own day.
Maybe we could do that in a couple hours, I'm thinking. All right, very good, thank you, Mayor. Deputy Clerk, that brings us, that concludes public comment and the mayor's communication, no on the, or not mayor's communication, but the mayor's budget readout. Takes us down to council members. We did the first one, the update, unless the Councilman Cahoon has anything additional that he wants to report on Mountain Avenue.
No, I do not.
So we're on page 5, council members number 2.
Update on East Providence High School, discussion only, Councilman Cahoon.
The only purpose for this item was to answer Councilwoman Souza's question from the last meeting. You had asked a question about the parking situation. There are 85 and only 85 parking spots established for seniors only, and those are awarded by way of lottery. So it's a little bit late to need because school has started, but that's how it was done.
The superintendent and I had a discussion, and she told me about it when I took a tour of the high school recently, and the faculty also, and I've spoken to some teachers, and I know the parking is just not there yet, but with time, and they can get that building down, it'll be fine.
Yep.
They'll get it.
Otherwise, remind everybody, it remains an active construction site while the demolition goes on. School opened on time, everything went okay. You will continue, if your constituents ask you, yes, there continue to be workers in the building. There are a number of things that still need to be done. The mechanicals, for example, cannot be fully checked out until after we actually turn on the heat and somebody can see that the heat comes on as it's supposed to, et cetera. So there will be people working in the new building, you know, probably right up into the winter, so.
Very good, thank you, Councilman. Next item, please.
ADA compliance, discussion only, Councilman Morato.
Actually, I want to combine the 2, 3 and 4,
Form, okay.
right?
Yep.
So on September 23rd at 6 PM, I will be conducting a community meeting at the Weaver Library here on Grove Avenue. The meeting is for, and I chose Weaver because it's one that's centralized, and 2, the Riverside branch is still closed after 6 o'clock. So I needed a bigger venue in case more people showed. I will have an ADA sign language interpreter in case someone needs to attend that's deaf and hard of hearing. The purpose of the meeting is to look into avenues as to how we can better serve our community. For example, with the department I work, I actually just developed an extensive policy on deaf and hard of hearing and how to communicate with, victim witnesses and even defendants. So, and I'm trying to carry that on into our clerk department for that town, that municipality. It's not only ADA, but ways to communicate with people that speak other languages other than English that need our services. So I just want to hear from the community as to what they may think would be an add or a change or a way to better serve our deaf and hard of hearing population if they need our services. The clerk's office has, or in the process of implementing a pay-as-you-go service with partners interpreting, for example. There's plenty of other avenues that if someone comes in that's deaf and hard of hearing, it's virtual and instant in communication through video conference if they do need something or someone. So on the 23rd of September, 6 PM, we have a library. If anyone's available, if you know a family or friend that may need some services, I would like to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Next item, please.
Update on investigation of the city clerk Samantha Burnett, communication from the August 17th, 2021 council meeting, discussion only, Councilman Morato.
So that item was discussed in executive session, and per our assistant solicitor, and keeping that in executive session, I'm not going to comment, or I'm going to leave it at that. So I like to close that one out.
Next item, please.
request to rescind Scorpio towing application for wrecking/towing license, section 8-523 for a vote. Councilman Morato.
Reason why I put this on the docket, and I apologize for not reading the ordinance back when we voted on this. And two things that I did do after the fact that was bothering me, and I did go and read the ordinance. First of all, when I do read the ordinance, and under that same section, 8-524, qualification for listing, it does speak of, and it's a short paragraph, so only licensed record firms meeting all requirements of this article and the regulations promulgated by the city council and operating such record and towing service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, per week, shall be included on the city police department's call list. The second sentence is the one that is the reason why, part of the reason why I put this back on the docket for a vote. Any such record service must be located within the corporate limits of the city, which this company is in the process of leasing a lot to store the vehicles there. But the second part of the sentence, comma, and shall have been regularly engaged in such business for at least 6 months. I look at that as this company had to have been in business, having a service within city limits for at least 6 months. And the other thing that struck me was that I did a quick search on the Secretary of State, and as of July 29th of this year, their certificate was, they had a their certificate was revoked. So they're not in good standing with the Secretary of State to begin with. So if we're gonna be fair to one, we have to be fair to all. And the way I read the ordinance and based on their license being revoked, I think that we should actually wait and see, or wait another 6 months to see if they actually do meet the ordinance before taking another vote on that. So I put on the docket to have it rescinded or reversed.
Council President.
Please.
So I did see this on the docket, and I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did speak with Assistant Solicitor Dillon, who was there. The council did grant this license contingent upon them producing a lease, which they did produce a lease to the clerk's office. I have read the ordinance as well. Well, I have two, whether we might have disagreement on the ordinance, how it reads and what it really means, but I do have a concern that we did grant this license subject to the lease being given. We're now trying to rescind a license that technically has been granted. We have not given the individual, the corporation, notice of this hearing. They should certainly be, that we're going to take this action. And I do have a little bit of a disagreement with the interpretation of the ordinance, because there is a comma. So it says any such record service must be located within the appropriate limits of the city, comma, and shall have been regularly engaged in such business for at least 6 months. The question is, does that mean 6 months within the city, or does that mean you have to be in the city and you have to have been operating in a tow business for at least 6 months somewhere else? The comma is the issue there. Dylan, I don't want to speak for Dylan, but he apparently he believes that it's within the city, and as long as you've been operating for 6 months somewhere else. But even more than that, I don't think it would be proper for us to take a vote to rescind this now without giving them notice of that.
I agree with what you're saying as far as not taking that vote without having them here. I concur with that. You know, the way I read it, that within 6 months, operating for 6 months, it's in addition to having a establishment within the city limits.
I'm not saying your reading is wrong, it could be read both ways. So they would have a right to challenge.
Correct. And then what do we do with the Secretary of State's, unless they have since fixed this since July 29th?
So is that the corporate status of it?
Correct.
What's been revoked, the corporation
Correct.
status? Yeah, so that usually is correct with a filing. I can check with that. I did speak with the police chief, seeing that this was on the agenda. He also had an issue. He had, again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but he had heard that their PUC license had been revoked as well, and I had to call into them today to see if the toll license would actually be revoked, which would be more problematic than the corporate. Okay. And they haven't got back to me. They promised me to get back to me within the next day or two. So
can we look into both of those items and then have them appear for the next council meeting and take a vote then?
Yeah, let me get back. Let me figure out those two items, and we'll see how we'll do with that, yeah.
So I think moving forward, and this was something that I mentioned at the last council meeting when this business came to the council. Never have I witnessed during my tenure as a councilwoman approved any type of a license for a business within the city that did not have an established business within the city at that time. That's just like saying, well, we're gonna give a liquor license to a business who's potentially gonna get into purchase a building, but they haven't purchased that building to open up an establishment to have a liquor license. That's essentially what took place 2 weeks ago with this company. We issued, well, the majority of the council issued a license when, in fact, they didn't meet the criteria of our city ordinance at that time. And I get the comment, well, you can potentially, if they meet the criteria. Well, it does say in the statute that we should be, that they should have the business within the city confines, and we have to be consistent with all businesses throughout the city. So who's to say down the line, this person, well, you have to have the business, we can't give it to you, but, somebody else comes and, well, I might like this business better, or I might know a friend of a friend, and, we're gonna give it to you if, you meet these criteria, so you have a few weeks to meet these criteria, or a month to meet these criteria. I mean, that just it's not consistent work or consistent practice across the board. And I think, it's important that we are always showing consistency so that it doesn't look that we're favoring unintentionally, maybe, one company or one service over another when issuing licenses.
So Councilman, are you tabling this for the next meeting?
If the solicitor can get that information and notify the applicant, yes.
Okay. Deputy Clerk, may you just put that on for the next meeting then, please? Okay, any other further discussion? No further discussion? Next item, please. We should be on the new business.
We just take a vote to motion to table, please.
Okay, yes. Okay. Councilman, you just want to form that in a motion?
Make
to table
I'll
for
make a
next-
motion to table that agenda item to the next meeting.
Anyone?
Second.
Deputy Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick,
Aye.
Council President Brito,
Aye.
Councilman Morato,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, please, which brings us on page 6 for those who are following along. We're on the new business. Mayor Communications, item 4, announcement discussion. Mayor's fiscal year 2022 was done at this point in time. Now we're on to the next one. Bullet point.
Next bullet is Executive Order 2021-14, August 23rd, 2021, Declaration of State and Municipal Emergency. Director Napoleon Phelps.
Council President, members of the council,
Good evening, sir.
good evening. This announcement is to inform the council that on August 23rd, 2021, the Honorable Mayor of East Providence, Roberto L. De Silva, declared a state of municipal emergency. Executive Order 2021-014, due to the dangers posed by the COVID-19, in particular Delta variant. All employees of the City of East Providence shall wear masks while working in all city buildings, regardless of vaccination status. All members of the public shall also be required to wear masks upon entering city buildings. The only exceptions are children younger than 2, or those who have health-related reasons which would prevent them from masking. All city departments are required to provide masks available to the public. City residents are also strongly encouraged to curtail visiting City Hall or other municipal offices to conduct non-essential businesses and to utilize the city's website to conduct routine business.
Thank you, sir. You want to follow up with the next one?
Sure. And the next one is about police recruitment. The police department is actively recruiting for both new police officers and lateral officers. The application period for both positions ends on September 17th, 2021. Some of the highlights from those positions are starting pay is $57,000 for new recruits and ranges to $68,000 for lateral officers, commensurate with experience. 16 to 24 vacation days annually, 15 sick days per year, 13 paid holidays, 3 personal. Blue Cross and Blue Shield Health Made Coast to Coast available. great private pension, over 80% funded, paid gym memberships, college tuition reimbursement, and lastly, if interested candidates can apply on www.policeapp.com.
Thank you. You want to proceed on to the next one? Or is the chief or David Bacharach going to come up? Mr. Bacharach?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's on a presentation to inform the public on the community development block grant.
Good evening, Council President,
Good evening.
council members. I just wanted to inform yourselves and the public of this year's Community Development Block Grant activities and programs that we're funding. The award that we received from the Housing and Urban Development, it was $755,677. And the range of activities are diverse. It starts with sexual abuse victims services, jobs ready workforce development initiative, integrated health services, foster grandparents program, a homeless day shelter that provides food and shelter, music education and appreciation that provides middle schools with curricula and recorders, a fall prevention program that provides programs for seniors to prevent falls, which is a huge health impact, a food pantry, Lynn Health Navigator that helps seniors stay in their homes, a foster forward program that provides preventative supportive services for youth that have aged out of foster care, a housing authority program that provides incentives for landlords to accept Section 8 housing choice vouchers, which unfortunately we have those vouchers, but we don't have apartments available for people to use those vouchers. Yes?
To interrupt you, are you saying that the City of East Providence Housing Authority has those vouchers, but we don't have housing? Or is that you saying the community as a whole, that's part of the block grant?
The community as a whole.
Okay.
We're funding a junior stage program to provide youth, elementary and middle school children with a experience of developing and exploring the love of performing arts, a veterans program for providing benefits counseling for veterans in the city, Clothes the Kids, which are providing clothes for students, a week's worth of clothes, a victims assistance that provides stabilization, language support, trauma support for victims of domestic violence. And we're providing kits to children and adolescents for basically relieving stress, and especially during COVID pandemic and isolation. We're also providing funds for financing home renovations to maintain affordable housing stock. We are continuing to try to support affordable housing development through either development or conversion of existing housing for affordable housing in the city. We are maintaining debt service payments for a HUD loan that is also supporting the East Ponte developments that the mayor referred to of 380 some apartments, of which 10% will be affordable housing. And we're supporting businesses, micro enterprise and small businesses with financing for small business, new ones, or expanding existing ones. So I want to just let you know the activities of this year's block grant funds and some of the things that we're supporting. This is for the fiscal year 21. And that was all I wanted to accomplish tonight. Do you have any questions?
I have a couple questions. So where exactly does this money come from, the 700,000 plus?
It comes from the federal government, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, with the acronym HUD.
Does the council contribute any money towards this program? I know there was a gentleman here last year and the year prior. I think it was like 35,000.
No, this is strictly all grant money from the federal government that we allocate to local needs. And the needs are based on, quite frankly, for this program, we did research, we had surveys, and we looked at data analysis for more than a year, because this is the first year of a 5-year plan for these funds.
I think the other one I'm referring to is that Hess, I believe.
I believe wasn't it the EBCAP program that the council decided to commit an additional, and I can't remember what the amount was, but your amount sounds correct.
So when you mention that they do victim services for domestic violence, do they perform in a like a law enforcement advocate, as a law enforcement advocate? Or
Yes,
what does that mean?
they do it in a way where, so there would be children victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. And, well, actually, the victim services, I take that back. There will be a social service embedded with the East Providence Police Department, and she would go out on calls of domestic violence and basically try to decrease the trauma of the situation, especially when you have police officers arriving onto the scene. And then she'll follow up with counseling, referral services to those victims. Sometimes those victims need to find other housing accommodations to keep them safe. So she provides all those services.
Are they counselors? I have a particular interest in this. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yes.
Are they counselors or are they law enforcement advocates?
They're counselors.
Okay, so they're not law enforcement advocates.
No, they're embedded in the police that are responding to those. So they're strictly providing services to the victims.
So where does EBCAP come into this, Councilman Cahoon? Do you know when they request for the victim services? It
Yeah,
seems like
so
it's redundant service.
I mean, EBCAP, and I'm not sure what their status is. I'm not sure if they're a nonprofit or what, but, you know, they're involved in a number of different communities where they seek community partnerships to run different programs. You know, I know, for example, they run the, God, what is they do the health, is it the health equity zones?
Right.
There's a number of different things, like they'll go into schools and stuff and do like, you know, help kids who have issues with dental insurance, like get dental insurance and stuff. Like they do a bunch of like social services to help consulting and stuff.
Yes, they're the largest CAP agency in Rhode Island, and so those services that they provide is everything from the health center on 100 Bullocks Point Ave that provides, you know, clinical medical health services to mental health services. They provide Head Start programs. They have an exhaustive array of services that they provide the city.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
And I didn't mean, my description is certainly not an expert one. I didn't mean to be dismissive at all of what EBCAP does. I was just trying
That's
to
right.
draw
I
some
just, the reason why I brought that up, because I do remember them lobbying and, you know, due to the victim services that they provide. But it just doesn't make sense that, you know, CDBG does the same thing. So who's doing what is what I'm trying to get at. So when they do come up next time and ask for money, I want to have some questions for them regarding that portion of what they do for East Providence. So
Fair enough.
I'm just trying to, you know, because I'm hearing this for the first time as to this portion of what that program does, so.
Next item, please.
East Providence Fire Department has been recognized and approved by the American Heart Association as the 2021 Mission Lifeline Gold for implementing specific quality improvement measures to treat patients who suffer severe heart attacks. Chief Whip.
Chief?
Good evening.
Good evening,
How's
sir.
everybody?
Good, thank you.
I just want to come up here and say the East Providence Fire Department is honored to receive the American Heart Association Award. I'm very proud of the EMS division and the men and women of the East Providence Fire Department. It's all about buy-in from your employees and training, training, training. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, that concludes mayor communication and moves us from page 6 to page 7, reports of other city officials.
DPW Director Dan Borges, handicap parking request at 38 Baker Street, requested by Councilwoman Souza.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
So, as some of you are aware, I was on vacation last week, so the request for the handicap sign was, I saw that today. I did have the ability to go by the address and take a quick look, but typically I put together a memo that will sort of outline my decision, or my recommendation, I should say. Maybe Councilwoman says you might be able to answer just a few of the questions. Is this for a bus? Is this for what
Nope,
kind of
it's
vehicle?
a single-family car.
Okay.
Husband and wife both have placards. They just want one space
Okay.
for in front of their home because they're unable to get in and out of the access that they have in the driveway. So the front home access is easier for them.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, I mean.
and I didn't know that you were on vacation last
No,
week,
it's
so I
okay.
hope you
No.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And welcome back.
Yeah, I mean, just from looking at it, seems like the front of that home is fairly congested. I don't know if it's vehicles from that home in particular. They do have a large camper in the driveway, which obviously doesn't help the parking. It is a double wide parking, I should say driveway. So, I mean, there is ample space in the driveway, but I mean, if they feel they need space in the street, like I said, I haven't really talked to the resident to get an
Yeah,
understanding, but
we can put this on
fine.
for the next council meeting,
Yeah.
and you can do your thorough investigation on how you do it and
Sure.
bring your recommendation. That's fine.
all right,
Thank you.
Dan.
thanks.
Next item, please.
The motion to table.
Yeah, motion
Oh.
to table till next council meeting,
Oh, that was
please.
a vote. Yep.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Council President Brito,
Aye.
Councilman Morato,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye. Madam Deputy Clerk, if you wouldn't mind just reaching out to the gentleman, because he calls daily about this thing, if you could just let him know that it's on for the next council meeting, thank you.
And here, okay, reports of city solicitor. I'll go on to the next one. Next one, please.
Report of the City Solicitor, Claims Committee Report.
Thank you. The City Council met as a Claims Committee in executive session prior to the start of the official meeting, open session of the meeting. Claim of National General Insurance Company was referred to the city's insurance carrier in the amount of $5,200. Claim of Janine Perez seeking reimbursement for approximately $2,900 for a replacement of a animal was referred to the solicitor's office for further settlement discussions. And the sewer charge abatement of $266.14 of Mr. Richard Sylvia was approved. The other items on the agenda, listed on the agenda, were for discussion purposes only. No votes were taken, except for the National Grid settlement proposal, and the terms of which will be disclosed at a later date once all parties agree.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. With that being said, reports of school committee liaisons, you can remove that. When there's a report, the councilman reports on that.
No, I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Mhm.
Resolutions. A resolution declaring September 7th, 2021 to be Dr. Richard Greco Day. Sponsor is Council President Brito.
So this came in as a proclamation. It was recommended to be used as a resolution. Unfortunately, this was referred over by Mr. Geller, who could not make it this evening, and I was hoping that he would come here with Dr. Richard Greco just for this proclamation, excuse me, for this resolution. I'll be real quick to read this. And I just wanted to do this because I thought it was something important when it was read to me, when it was brought to my attention about Dr. Greco and his commitment to the community as a whole of the city of East Providence. And this is a resolution declaring September 11th, which is Dr. Richard Greco's birthday, actually, to be Dr. Richard Greco Day, whereas Richard Germano Greco was born on September 11th, 1941, in Boston, Massachusetts. As a graduating from a prestigious Boston Latin school, Richard completed an undergraduate degree at Tufts University and continued to earn his MD at Tufts University School of Medicine. And whereas following medical school, Dr. Greco enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1968 and was served for 3 years in Boston. Whereas in 1973, Richard and his beloved wife, Ruth Monahan, moved to Rumford, Rhode Island to join the Pediatric Association. Whereas following his 15-year tenure there, Dr. Greco opened Riverside Pediatric. Some of you might remember that. Whereas during Dr. Greco's time at Riverside Pediatric, he served as the attendant physician at the Tavares Pediatric Center in Providence. Whereas in 1980, Dr. Greco published Parents' Pediatric Reports with his colleague, Dr. Dominic Denioli and Dr. Linda Tottel as newsletter about children's health and reached more than 3,000 subscriptions at its peak. Whereas Dr. Greco practiced in Riverside Pediatrics for 28 years until his retirement in December 2015. And whereas, although retired, Dr. Greco continued his attendant physician pediatrics unit at Butler Hospital, where he worked for 25 years. And whereas though Richard loved caring for thousands of children and continued to love his career in medicine and has truly always been his family, whereas Dr. Richard loved the devotion of his late wife, Ruth, were insurmountable, where they were married for 49 years before Ruth's ultimate passing in 1916, whereas Richard was very proud of his 2 sons, Greg and Daniel, their spouses, Lauren and Erin, and his grandson, Benjamin. And whereas Richard has served as a greater Rumford community with pride, integrity, and dedication and emotions, that statement of the East Providence official seal pro bono publico for greater good. And whereas a kind and generous man, father, husband, friend, and neighbor, Richard enriched the lives of many around him, and now therefore is resolved that the City Council of the City of East Providence hereby declares September 11, 2021 a Richard Greco Day, and resolution passed, adopted on. So I just wanted to do that real quickly. Unfortunately, the person who brought this to the city clerk's attention, Mike Geller, was unable to make it tonight. Dr. Greco was unable to make it this evening as well, and hopefully we can get something onto this individual in a resolution or a proclamation and send it off to him as well for his service that he did for pediatrics throughout the city of East Providence and his dedication that he served the city as well. So thank you all for granting me this time to read this resolution.
Mr. President, I'd move approval of the resolution.
I will second.
Deputy Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Next resolution, please.
Resolution regarding the disposition of the City of East Providence's interest in Tax Assessors Map 305, Block 8, Parcel 20, located between and near Lynn Ave and Vineland Ave.
So,
Sponsor, Council President Brito.
excuse me. So this was brought to the council's attention last week by Attorney John Shikashi and Phil Terrell about a hammerhead, and we heard a lot about the hammerhead. Oh, Mr. Terrell's here. I'm sorry. I didn't notice you with the mask. Please approach the podium. I'm sorry?
I can take this off and breathe.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. My attorney couldn't make it last minute. Something popped up. So I know a little bit about real estate, so I think I wing it, hopefully. First off, I didn't know what hammerhead was until about a year and a half ago, when the planning department made it part of the requirement that we put one in at the end of Vineland Avenue, which is a dead-end street in East Providence. The reason why a hammerhead is proposed is it's going to be a turnaround. Like at the end of a dead-end street, it doesn't look like a hammer, first of all. Basically what it is...
It's like a cul-de-sac.
Right, it's like a little mini cul-de-sac, 3,700 square feet of land of the property is going to be used for safety vehicles, public safety vehicles, like rescue squads, police vehicles, fire trucks, so they could turn around and get out quickly. That's the purpose of the hammerhead. And it was, and like I said, it's part of the requirement by the city, plan department, for us to do it for the final approval. So we are doing it. And the good news is it's not going to cost you anything. We're giving it to you for free.
So my understanding is you're extending the existing road to have a turnaround.
Right, we have to deed over a portion of the land at the beginning. I do have a copy. I do have some papers if you want to see what a hammerhead looked like.
And are there homes being built on this? There's 3 lots.
On this particular street of Violin, there's going to be one house with a hammerhead. So at the very end of Violin, there's going to be a hammerhead put in for one house. We do have 2 other houses on Lynn Avenue that will be developed too at the end of at Lynn Avenue and Tab. So it'll be 3 houses altogether. But
So-
on Violin, at the very end of Violin, there's going to be one house for the hammerhead.
So the resolution, and correct me if I'm
Yep.
wrong, or Mr. Solicitor, correct me if I'm wrong, that the resolution pretty much provides, I mean, this is not at the expense of the city, it's at the expense of the developer, but more importantly, to make sure that the road complies with the city's plan and regulations.
Yes, yes.
And that's what the road, and that's what this resolution does.
Approval of the subdivision.
Right, yes, yep.
All right. So at the council, I'm just going to ask the council at this point in time if anyone has any questions or even some concerns about this resolution. This would be the time to ask those questions to Mr. Terrell.
Mr. President, being that it's a requirement and everything seems in order, I move approval of the resolution.
Before we, any questions from council? So we do have a motion for approval on the resolution by Councilman Roderick. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilman Cahoon. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
Council President Brito?
Aye.
Councilman Morato?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set, sir. Thank you. Next resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the purchase of a motorcycle and 5 police vehicles for the police department. Sponsors, Council Vice President Rodrick.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. President, this is a resolution that authorizes the mayor to purchase a police motorcycle and 5 police vehicles. And I did talk with Police Chief Nebus, who explained the funding for this. It is 100% asset forfeiture, otherwise known as Google monies. And they, in order to get good pricing and a quick process, they used, I think it's called the Greater Boston Police Council bid contract, which is already set in place. One of the problems, and I see this on the news frequently, anybody, consumers, municipalities, ordering vehicles due to the pandemic, that's become a problem also because of something as small as a computer chip. And it's very difficult to start from scratch, and in some cases, you cannot get these specialized vehicles. The Greater Boston Contract Group made the process easier. But in any event, it's not costing the city budget a dollar. This is still coming from the Google account. For the record, there's an amended figure. The correct figure total should be $335,594. I think some of the digits were a little bit off in what we received in the packet. And in terms of a narrative, I think the opportunity is here now to bring more security to East Providence. The day may come when asset forfeiture accounts are not available. We know the day will come when the Google money is finally spent, but asset forfeiture funds continue as a regular basis as the police department gets assets that are confiscated. And that day may come where we need more of a security fleet, police vehicles, and we don't have the money to do it. And right now, I hear from a lot of people that are concerned about security needs and problems that are happening in a neighboring city to us. I'll say it, it's Providence. We hear about problems daily. And for being separated by a river, we might be experiencing more of these problems coming into East Providence. So, not to throw stones at the capital city, but the news is the news. There are concerns that are very close to us, and I think if it helps to have a police motorcycle, if it helps to have 5 more vehicles, we see the increase in problem with these ATVs and 3-wheelers that are creeping into East Providence. I've seen it. We've had the problem a year or two ago at Pierce Field, where someone in the middle of the night was coming in with the ATVs and doing donuts and speeding around and ruined our basketball courts. So the bottom line is we have an opportunity to go along with the police chief's recommendation to increase his fleet by 5 vehicles, including a police motorcycle, and not costing taxpayers a penny. Why would we not do this? And I would agree with Chief Nebus, with the mayor, that this is a win-win for East Providence. So that is my narrative.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not against purchasing of police vehicles. You know, an average police vehicle, 6 months on the road is like you owning a car for 10 years. I mean, they run pretty much 24/7, and the wear and tear on them is horrendous. But last year, there were 4 vehicles that were put on capital improvement budget. And I asked that question as to why couldn't we use the forfeiture money? And the answer I got, which was in the budget of last year, that if we did, we'd be in risk of violating the DOJ rules. What has changed from last year to this year in allowing us to purchase those vehicles this year with that money?
I'm not aware of that as a problem. I don't know if...
Well, it was in last year's budget. It's right there in last year's budget. $200,000 for 4 police vehicles. I just want to make sure that we don't have the same issue this year in losing that forfeiture money.
Well, I know that asset forfeiture has been used. In fact,
Correct.
If you remember when we first got the big Google.
Correct. It did early on about 10 cars.
Right, we were able to, if it wasn't for that, we would have these old cars you talk about. So it was used at one point. Now, I don't know if something changed.
Yes, if I can clarify just a bit. We're allowed to buy vehicles through the Google money. However, you're not supposed to supplant. And in talking with the chief, and we had an audit a few years back, is that every few years you need to buy a few vehicles to make a good faith effort. If we just stop doing it for years, they could come in and say, you haven't made an effort. And therefore, we're going to consider this supplanting, and then you run into violations of the agreement.
So what is the difference between this year and not being able to purchase it last year, the 4 vehicles that were put into capital improvement?
Well, we've shown an effort, right? We've shown an effort. Last year, it's not supplanting this year. This is additional, I think. Is that what you're saying?
And so every few years, we try to put in, 2, 3, 4 vehicles in the budget, just as a precaution, not precautionary, but, to meet our obligation.
So let me ask you this, were those vehicles purchased with that $200,000 that was approved last budget season?
I believe so.
They were?
I can double check on that, but I'm pretty sure it was all spent. I think there was 4.
4 vehicles, correct. I just want to make sure that we're not if we were at risk last year, I just want to make sure that we're not at risk again this year.
No, I agree, but I think the risk was eliminated because we showed the effort. We purchased the 4 vehicles with our money. So now they're saying, okay, you proved that you're not supplanting, so you're now eligible.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can we just check on those numbers again, Councilman?
Sure. The amended version, the total for the 6 police vehicles, to be clear, it's a motorcycle and 5 police vehicles. And the purchase is through the Greater Boston Police Council bid contract, and the total is $335,594.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So if there aren't any other comments, I'd move approval.
With the corrected amount?
With that amended amount, the corrected amount.
I have just one question. Is there any need to amend the ordinance first and then a vote on the ordinance as amended, if the amount is being amended? I don't mean to drag it out, I just want to make sure we do it the right way.
We have
So
actually a substitute, we actually have a substitute resolution.
Ah,
so
okay.
It was an error that we caught today. late today,
Sorry,
so-
not an ordinance, resolution, my fault.
Resolution, yeah.
So.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick,
Aye.
Council President Brito,
Aye,
Councilman Morato,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
thank you. Next item, please.
Introduction of ordinances. This is an ordinance for first passage. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18-307 of the revised ordinance of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended entitled Vehicles and Traffic, moving the stop sign from the south side of the street to the north side of the street. Sponsor is Councilman Morato.
The actual ordinance is to move a no parking from the south side of Sunset Avenue to the north side of Sunset Avenue. But I had Dylan help me with this ordinance. There's one thing that I do want to amend to this ordinance. So listen, Marcelo, I sent you that email, but I'll also give you this also, this language.
Yeah, hold on a second.
This is the language I'd like to add to this ordinance.
So can I just make, so it was advertised as a,
Stop sign,
But the ordinance was actually the parking sign, right?
correct,
Good, okay. So we posted the ordinance, so.
correct. And I also like to just amend the ordinance.
Okay.
So in addition to changing so just a brief history, and I won't belabor this, but the street is a narrow road. I spoke to every resident on that road, and I had DPW director also meet me on that road. The problem is that the cars that park, the trash barrels sometimes they miss them because they're in between cars. So every neighbor agrees that moving the no parking to across the street and also adding the following language so that the vehicles can back out of the driveway. And the language would read Sunset Avenue North Side, 5 18-foot space directly across from the driveways leading to the driveway of 680 Bullocks Point Ave, which is access from Sunset Ave, 12 Sunset Ave, 18 Sunset Ave, 22 Sunset Ave, and 26 Sunset Ave. The 5 designated no parking areas as indicated will be marked with a box painted on a roadway and painted no parking within the box. This is a common practice in Bristol. And the reason for that, even though if we do move the cars across the street, I still want to be able to have the cars safely back out of their driveways, because if you park an SUV directly behind the driveways, it's going to impede their safely getting out of the driveway. So is that something I could just add to that ordinance?
Yeah, it's the first passage. So.
Okay. So
You have the language there, yeah.
Correct. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the ordinance with the language read into record. As I read, correct.
So you're forming that in a motion right now?
Correct. I'm forming this
Second.
motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, with second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick,
Aye.
Council President Brito,
Aye.
Councilman Morato,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Adjournment.
I just have a question before we adjourn. The council president, or somebody read the mayor's executive order Typically, we always vote on the executive order, but I don't see it here down for a vote. It was just mentioned, so can I have clarification?
Yeah, so
on that?
we put it down for 30 days, so it's going to be the next council meeting. There's actually no end date on it. So I talked to the Director of Administration before this council meeting, and I said, we'll just put it down for, it's 30, the next 30 days will be the next council meeting, so we're going to approving it on a 30-day basis.
So but this one is an extension from a previous?
No, it's a new one.
Right, so don't we have to take a vote on that to approve?
You have 30 days. So it's in effect, it hasn't been in effect for 30 days yet. So at the next council meeting, the 30 days will be close to up,
Okay,
and so that you can vote on it then.
okay.
Unless you wanted to rescind it now, which you could.
Well, we didn't vote on it.
I know you don't vote on executive order,
Right.
you only continue them.
Right, right.
Well,
Okay.
they're good until you pretty much, as a courtesy, the mayor's been giving you 30 days. Normally they would last until they're repealed.
Right.
Or he repeals it.
Okay.
But as a courtesy to keep the council involved, we just do it as on a 30-day period.
So
So next council meeting, you'll get to vote on to extend it or not extend it.
I guess I was just wondering was this from the original?
No, it's a new one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's a brand new one. The other one expired completely
But it's
because,
the same language?
correct, it's the same language, but the original one
Right, it's
expired because the
expired.
governor's ended.
Correct.
And then the governor put a new one in, and then the city put in a new one as well.
Right, right. But it's the original language from the first one initially.
It's it's not exactly the same, but
Right,
it's the
but
same
similar,
principle,
right,
yes, yes,
okay.
yes.
Just want to.
It'll be on the next council agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn at this point?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick,
Aye.
Council President Brito,
Aye.
Councilman Morato,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.